Joe Biden's biggest problem right now is he has people on the record named Gavin Newsom, governor of California, named J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, taking him on and flirting with the 2024 run when they've got their own guy eligible to run for a second term. They don't want him. But I would ask them all, what were you expecting?
Well, that is a good question from Kellyanne Conway there. I mean, I wasn't expecting much. I'm a progressive, and the progressives tried to warn people about what Biden would be. But despite the fact that Kellyanne Conway is, and we cannot stress this enough, the worst, she's not super wrong right there. If you watch her full interview, she's wrong about a ton of different stuff. But yeah, Biden is starting to face a lot of questions about why he isn't doing literally anything about literally anything. Even the New York Times has this front page story. Biden promised to stay above the fray, but Democrats want a fighter. And in it, they have a lot of sources, some anonymous, some willing to identify themselves, that are being highly critical of Joe Biden for not rising to the challenge of literally any challenge, and seeming to believe that after 40 plus years of fighting as hard as he can to become president, he should spend the 4 years of what will likely be his only term as president doing literally nothing except trumpeting how limited his powers are and how everything is really up to the Supreme Court, the Congress, the state legislators, the DOJ, whoever. Where does the buck end? I guess literally everywhere else other than on him. And I want to give you, because I think that they're onto something here, just a little bit from the article that we showed you the front page of. They say at a moment of broad political tumult and economic distress, Mr. Biden has appeared far less engaged than many of his supporters had hoped. And I think there they mean like enthusiastic supporters. While many Democrats are pleading for a fighter who gives voice to their anger, Mr. Biden has chosen a more passive path, blaming Congress, urging people to vote, and avoiding heated rhetorical battles. And they also criticize Kamala Harris, saying that she said last week that the White House is not considering setting up abortion clinics on federal property, instead calling on voters to change the balance of Congress, which I will remind you, the Democrats control. The administration is also not considering a push to expand the Supreme Court. But we could go beyond even what the New York Times is willing to identify. They're really trying not at all, basically, on their infrastructure bill to reinvigorate it. I think they're gonna like do another thing on drug prices or whatever, that'll fail. They're not reassuring people about inflation or about gas prices. They're continually punting on doing something about student debt, even though he has unilateral ability to solve that problem. Any discussion of raising wages has gone out the door. He's not reassuring anyone about voting rights or the Dems doing anything to protect people's access to actually vote. And in terms of people's rights, it's really up to whatever the conservative supermajority on the court decides it should be, because they're not going to reform the Supreme Court. So a lot of people have big issues with Joe Biden. Ben, the question is this getting to him? Will he actually change? Can he actually change in the face of this pressure?
I mean, look, we got to rip the Band-Aid off. This is what Joe Biden wants. This is what Joe Biden has wanted his entire career, right? He spent tons of time, right, trying to overturn Roe v. Wade. He's spent tons of time trying to make sure that people can't declare bankruptcy on their student loans. He spent tons of times like putting in place the exact measures that led up to this, right? Talking about the hot dog man meme, that's literally this. Joe Biden created this, right? Like the difficult position that Joe Biden is in right now is he has to figure out a way to pretend that he's unhappy about everything that's happening, right? Because he has plenty of power to deal with all of these problems. He just likes it. This is what he wanted. And what Kellyanne Conway said, shockingly enough, is 100% correct. To all the people who are telling me that it was such a brilliant galaxy brain strategy to vote for Joe Biden of all people in the primary, what were you expecting? What else were you expecting? We were the ones who were told that we were dividing the party or we're gonna cost the Democrats the election by correctly pointing out that Joe Biden's entire career has been pushing for the exact things that the Republicans are getting and wanting right now. Joe Biden created these circumstances. Joe Biden pushed for that crime bill. Joe Biden literally shocked, was it Ronald Reagan or Richard Nixon, with how like gratuitous like his ideas for the crime bill were. Like he literally is like this extremist right-wing figure, and people are just unwilling to recognize it because he has a D by his name. And it's just like, it's really like shameful, right? Because especially in this moment, like Joe Biden's response to police reform, for example, has been to increase police budgets, and that's it, right? And like when people were protesting the Supreme Court, before any protest even happened, he went out of his way to be like, don't be violent, don't be violent. Nobody was being violent. Nobody was talking about being violent. Like it's such a weird like mental gymnastics you're doing to like create justification in advance for police officers to brutalize peaceful protesters like they did across the country. And so, I mean, yeah, what did anybody expect? What did anybody expect, right?
Exactly.
Like this is exactly what Joe Biden's whole career has been.
Yeah, they knowingly or unknowingly signed up for 4 years of not much happening except them continuing to tell us not to criticize Joe Biden because then you'll make him lose. It's on us. We're the ones who are responsible for whether he loses, not him. But, and again, like it doesn't matter if we get any credit, and we won't clearly, but can we stop for 1 second and acknowledge that we're right fundamentally, and that we weren't just right in hindsight? We were right when it mattered. We were right early. We could have chosen someone different to run, and we might have gotten a different outcome. Maybe Bernie would have run up against all the same obstacles, and that would have been it. Maybe, but then worst case scenario, we're in the same position we're in right now. And right now, more and more people seem to be getting it, and even a lot of Biden voters don't want him to run again. But there are still some very vocal people on Twitter who are, we've already mocked this now, still defending him, saying, how dare you expect anything of him? How dare you expect him to do anything? Certainly don't criticize him. And anytime you suggest literally any course of action that he could take to potentially cause something to change, their only knee-jerk reaction is, that couldn't possibly work, don't try anything. Don't put pressure on anyone, don't expect anything. They're no better than right-wing voters at this point, having no hope whatsoever that the government could actually deliver for them.
Yeah, even on an issue where Democrats agree, like guns, right? Joe Biden, a lot of these gun manufacturers have contracts with the Department of Defense. If Joe Biden really cared about guns, he could just sign an executive order requiring any gun manufacturer that has a contract with the Department of Defense or any federal agency that they put in place an age requirement of 21 to buy any type of semi-automatic rifle or anything like that. Like literally, like he could do that with an exexecutive order, but he doesn't.
And a majority is in favor of raising that age, by the way. On all these issues, again, it's not on us to convince people. We already won. People have our position on all this stuff. It's on him to actually do something. But unfortunately, and I think it's very easy for people to point this out about Trump, and did, that he wanted to be President Trump. He didn't want to be president. Like he wanted the title and he wanted the pomp and circumstance, he wanted the fame, but he didn't want to actually do the job. We all identified that he didn't seem to care about doing the actual job. But can we do that today with Biden? Can anyone answer the question, why does he want to be president so badly that he would run so many times? I have no idea.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.